This is Real Deal Sports Talk with KP, August 16th, 2018.
Yo, Denver City life living every night getting it. All I see is green like it's night vision. My sight's different. My type driven. These niggas risking a life sittings over white flipping, but I ain't with it. I'm light skinned it. My mind gifted, intelligence in my disposition, aristocratic image, and not to mention I'm nice with it. The ice drip over cardigan sweaters, tight fitting, white linen. This is the type of shit that entice women. The fly shit that I'm on is passing the sky's limits. Why it's not surprising to see that all of these guys live it. I vivid, solemnly swear the rhyme exquisite with the time I'm giving. My mind flying, defying physics. I stay smooth like sipping out of champagne flutes. Always way cool, but it ain't a thing, just the flame cruise. You lame dudes, this that shit that you can't do. That's why your main boo steady watching me how I make moves.
My high city life got me way above the clouds. Paint the audience a picture every time I draw a crowd. I hold my weight with these bars, so make no mistake. I get the cooking like Chef Curry and Golden State. I'm motivated, I'm taking off, moving vertically. Saying that they were seeing me lyrically, that's absurd to me. Virtually murdering MCs on purpose. Cutting their body parts into pieces is verbal surgery. You say you hot, but you ain't burning to the third degree. Time to bring some urgency in the state of emergency. There's no comparison to us, that's way embarrassing. Making something from nothing like ancient Native Americans. Man, listen, I'm undergoing a transition. My transmissions are filled with nothing but ambition. No remorse on these rappers like a Roman force. Snuck into the game on these suckers inside the Trojan horse.
And welcome into Real Deal Sports Talk with KP. How's everybody doing today? Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. As always, I appreciate all of my listeners. It is August 16th, 2018. The work week is winding up. It's Thursday. You got one more day to the weekend. You got football coming back, NFL football coming back this weekend. You got college football to look forward to next weekend. Now, keep that on the horizon now. College football is right around the corner. So everybody out there who's boycotting the NFL this year because you're sick of the mentality and you're sick of the justice system and the business side and how they treat the players, all the power to you. Next week, you got that college system to deal with. Because guess what? It's really not a better system for the players now, is it? It's not something everybody's out there touting how good the NCAA is treating the players, right? So be mad at one instance because they're making more money and getting the press from 45. But just keep in mind, the NCAA ain't all that better. Now, you're either a football fan or you're not. I'm a football fan. I hate the business side of it. I don't like the money that's involved. I love the purity of the sport. On record saying that many times on this show. Okay? So, we got that to look forward to this weekend, next weekend. Football's back. Major League Baseball, the division races are getting tight. Not really going to fit that into today's show, but we will jump back on baseball here as we are wrapping up the season, getting into those later months, and see which divisions are maybe won, which divisions are looking real tight. We'll get into that probably on the next show. For today, we're going to cover our AFC East predictions. We're going to get to that. We got to cover Jalen Ramsey's comments in GQ. Elway, he made comments today about Kaepernick. We'll talk about that. And real quick, I want to send thoughts out to Aretha Franklin's family, Detroit Lions fan, the Queen of Soul. We lost her today as she passed away with her health issues. And it's going to be sad. You know, she meant a lot to a lot of people. Her music meant a lot to a lot of people. And she will live on through that music. By no means, RESPECT is something that I stand for on this show. That's real talk. That's keeping it 100. And that's what we're about here at Real Deal Sports Talk with KP. So to the family, to the friends, to the fans of the Queen of Soul, moment of silence for you. All right. She will be missed. She did the national anthem at the Lions game a few years ago. We all know how important she was to the R&B and soul movement. She's a legend. One of the best. Blues Brothers movies. If you haven't seen her acting in those, go check that out. She's great there too. Okay, AFC East. Last time we covered the NFC East. Today we have our AFC East predictions. Should I just say it? New England's going to win the division, wrap it up, show's over? Well, maybe. We're not going to go quite that far. So let's go ahead and break down the teams. Where were these teams at last year? Where did this division end? New England 13-3. Okay, that's to be expected. They're good for 10 to 14 wins a year. Bills 9-7, break their playoff drought. Get into the playoffs last year. Sean McDermott is the head coach. Miami, horrible season in Miami. They couldn't get out of their own way. They had 2 left feet. They had players not playing the snaps, not doing the calls that came in. Injuries. I mean, it was a disaster down there for Miami last year. They went 6-10. Bigger disaster, even though they had some grit and they had some toughness to them, and they had guys like Robbie Anderson at wide receiver position being a tough guy. Okay, they come in at 5-11. Not a good season for the Jets. Where did these teams rank offensively and defensively last year? Not one team in this division was ranked in the top 15 on both offense and defense. On offense, the division ranks went as this. New England was first in the NFL. Miami 25th, the Jets 28th, and the Bills 29th. 3 teams in the division below 25 or below as their overall offense. Pathetic. It's no wonder New England wins it every year. These teams aren't trying to compete anymore. They're just trying to make their dollars. Defensive side, Miami had the best defense, came in at 16th. Right dead in the middle of the NFL. Everybody else, again, 25th or below. The Jets, 25th. The Bills, 26th. New England, 29th with that Matt Patricia defense. That everybody in Detroit, and hey, I'm a Lions fan, y'all know that. People in Detroit are like, oh, Matt Patricia defense. The media, oh, look what Matt Patricia's going to do with this defense with Pasquale. Well, it better be better than 29th. Just saying that as a Lions fan. Let's keep it real. It better be better than 29th, what he was able to do in New England last year. Because that ain't going to cut it in Detroit. Not going to cut it. So that's where they were at last year. I expect some movement in those numbers as far as where these teams rank offensively and defensively this year. Honestly, I expect New England's defense to be better than 29th this year. I would expect the Jets' offense to be better than 28th this year. Miami, you might not see a lot of movement from Miami. You might not see a lot of movement from the Jets. Maybe. Like I said, I don't see them being 28th on offense this year. I don't know that their defense got that much better, but we'll talk about it here in a minute. Let's start with the perennial division winner. Let's start with New England and get them out of the way. Kind of a rough offseason. We're seeing the cracks in the armor. We're hearing different rumors coming out about this team now that we never heard before. Stuff with the owner, the head coach, the star players. Are they going to retire? Will they be in camp? Who's getting re-signed long term? Maybe there's going to be a Gronkowski trade. Personal trainers. 41st birthdays. And 45 is mixed up in a whole lot of it. Rough offseason for a team like the Patriots. Now, they re-signed Lance Burkhead. They re-signed Matthew Slater. They re-signed Adrian Waddle. He's going to be a depth guy, but they're going to need him on the team. Burkhead is a proven commodity. And Slater is your special teams captain. He's your go-to guy if something has to get done. Outside of Edelman, those are the 2 go-to guys on that team. Now, they bring in an Adrian Claiborne from Atlanta to help out that defensive line. They bring in a Jason McCourty this year. They had a shot at him last year, I think. But they bring him in this year, and he's going to be playing there. Now, they lose Danny Amendola. They lose Malcolm Butler. They lose Cameron Fleming. They lose Dion Lewis. They lose Nate Soldier. So you lost 2/5 of your starting offensive line, which was patchwork as it is. I mean, that's the New England way. We're going to patch things together as we go. This player fits here. This player fits there. Here's what he can do. Here's what he can do. But you lose Dion Lewis. You lose Malcolm Butler. Sure, you sat him in the Super Bowl for no flipping reason other than you're the coach. You made it seem like it was his fault in the media, or the media tried to make it seem like it was his fault. And that story went away real quick because it didn't have any legs to stand on. There were no facts there. There was no story being told. He said, she said. But losing your left tackle, who's protected Tom Brady for the past 5 or 6 years, losing Cameron Fleming, who had some solid seasons the last 2 or 3 seasons for him, Amendola, who stepped up and filled that role when Edelman went down. Those are guys, they're hard to replace. Now, they had a decent draft. I like the pick of Isaiah Wynn. I like bringing in Sony Michel. Although Sony Michel, worried about the knees, right? We already know he's had a procedure on his knees in camp already to have them drained. So we're going to have to see how Sony Michel, how long his career can actually be for such a dynamic back. And as far as New England goes, everything runs through Belichick. That's the story. He's still the head coach. 43 years in the league as a head coach, 19 seasons, or 43 seasons as an NFL coach, 19 seasons as the head coach of the Patriots. They keep Josh McDaniels this year. Wah, wah, who cares? Ain't nobody like Josh McDaniels. He hasn't been successful without Brady. He's Belichick's boy. I can't wait to not have to see or talk about him anymore. I am not a Josh McDaniels fan. I don't appreciate the stories of how he treats people on his staff, especially with his time here in Denver. I think he's a wonder boy with a big head. That's my impression of Josh McDaniels. Now, I've never met him, never talked to the guy, but the fact of the matter is that's the perception of him out there right now. Defensively, Belichick he's got his thumbprint all over that. You got Brian Flores at the linebacker coach, Steve Belichick as the safeties coach, his son. On the special team side, Joe Judge, we'll see. It all goes as far as Gronkowski and Slater go. But it all comes down to Bill Belichick. I mean, the Patriots right now, they're not even listing a defensive coordinator on their team. Linebackers coach, defensive line coach, cornerback coach, and the safeties coach. So they got position coaches, and that's it. Because who's going to be calling the defense this year? More than likely, it will be Bill Belichick, have his name and his thumbprint all over that New England defense this year. Now, I got the Patriots going 10-6. I do have them winning the division at 10-6. Could they do better? Of course. Could they do worse? Of course. I looked at their schedule. I got them at 10-6. They have some key games. Week 1 and 2, Houston and Jacksonville. You don't want to start off slow. You don't want to have all the press talking about 0-2, 0-3, 0-4. Week 6 at Kansas City. Kansas City has been a pain in New England's ass for the last few years. That's going to be a big one. Can Belichick get one over Andy Reid? Will Patrick Mahomes be up to the challenge of playing New England? Week 9 at Green Bay. Week 13, Minnesota. Week 15, Pittsburgh. Those are key games. You win all those, you're going to win the division. You're going to have a home field advantage. You'll probably be on your way to another Super Bowl. But I got them going 10-6. I don't think they win all those games. But those are some key games in what is, becoming a evenly hard schedule across the NFL. Now we'll go to the Jets, the big market Jets, the big signing in the draft, rookie starter, 5-11 last year. Well, I have them going 4-12 this year. So they re-signed Maurice Claiborne. They re-signed Josh McCown, which to me is the biggest pickup that they had. I love him as a backup. I love him as a mentor. He picks up every system he's played in, and he plays it well. He's better than his brother Luke, that's for sure. Here in Denver, they talk about all the time the middle-ish of June veteran quarterback, and for the last 3 or 4 years, Josh McCown's name has come up here in Denver as a guy that Broncos fans and people who cover the team have mentioned as this would be a good guy to pick up. And he is. He's played for a lot of teams. He's helped a lot of young guys. He's seen a lot of stuff. He's been successful. He's had some really crappy games and seasons. So what do? They also bring in a Teddy Bridgewater. Why not take a flyer on the guy? Sure, his lower leg is being held on by surgically repaired tendons and a massive knee brace. And, he's got all the hype behind him. Everybody thinks and talks like he's the best quarterback in the league. Oh, he went 11-5 with Minnesota and took him to the playoffs. He didn't have to do much that year. That was like his Dak Prescott year. Just don't make a mistake. We're not going to ask you to win the game. We're just asking you not to lose it. Kind of like a Trent Dilfer or a Brad Johnson type, right? But somehow, Teddy Bridgewater is being looked at still as a potential all-pro quarterback. I didn't see it when he was in Minnesota as a Lions fan. I don't see it now with his surgically repaired knee. There's a huge mental aspect to still get over. And the way all the hype train is going about teams trading for him, if I'm the Jets, bring on the offers. Because I got my guy in the rookie, Sam Darnold. I got my backup in Josh McCown. This guy's trade bait. Anything we get out of him or for him just makes us better in the long run because we don't need him. And whoever ends up with him is going to end up with an average guy they're paying probably starter money to. They bring in Brandon Copeland, Isaiah Crowell, Trumaine Johnson on the back end of that defense, which is starting to get pretty solid. Terrell Pryor to play receiver, Thomas Rawls at the running back position. They're going to give Cairo Santos a shot. Remember, he was a good kicker for the Chiefs, and then he couldn't hit nothing. Not a thing. They bring over Travis Swanson from Detroit, and their key draft pick was Sam Darnold. The rest of their draft don't matter. It all hinges on his shoulders. They will be as successful over the next 5 to 10 years as Sam Darnold makes them. All their eggs are in that basket. They didn't draft another starter for this year. They drafted guys that might develop into something, but not one other guy on their draft is going to start this year. Sam Darnold probably starts week 1, if not week 2, because they give the nod to Josh McCown as the vet for 1 week. But I highly expect Sam Darnold to start the whole season. Now you're looking at a rookie quarterback who hasn't seen a lot, has a great skill set. He's big, strong arm, went to a top school. Didn't have a great year last year, threw too many interceptions at USC. Doesn't have a great offensive line. Not a great running game. And receivers that most people don't know. Key games for the Jets, all of them. You got a rookie quarterback and you won 5 games last year. Every game is key. You start playing playoff football week 1. Especially in that division with New England, who, I'm telling you, they're good for 10 wins. At least. Unless something happens. I mean, shoot. Tom Brady went down a few years ago. They still went 11-5. So every game is key. When you're a 5-win team in a division where one team basically wins it every year, where the Bills got over their hump last year. Of course, they don't have their quarterback back. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But I think the floor, I think they might be able to get to 6 wins, do one better than last year. But I got them at 4-12. That's where I see the Jets at. Now the Dolphins, they were a game better than the Jets last year, right? They were 6-10. So what does Miami go and do in the offseason? Hey, we're a 6-10 team. What are we going to do to get better, to compete against the New England, to get past the Bills and be that wild card team that the Bills were? They go and get New England's receiver, Danny Amendola. They bring in Frank Gore to mentor Drake at the running back position, and Frank Gore still has tread on the tires. He's still running the rock. He was the leading rusher for the Colts. They bring in Brock Osweiler. Who cares? If he ends up playing for them, their season's over. They bring in a key veteran on the offensive line in Josh Sitton because they lose a Mike Pouncey in free agency. They lose Ndamukong Suh, who, from all reports, it was not working in Miami. Ndamukong Suh had higher standards. Miami was not meeting them, basically. He kind of freelanced, it was reported, and did what he want on certain plays. So it wasn't working there. He signed that big money contract, avoided income tax in Florida to leave Detroit, and now he finds himself playing with the Rams in LA. They lose Mike Williams at their strong safety position. We all know Jarvis Landry is now in Cleveland. And who do they bring in the draft? Okay, they get Minkah Fitzpatrick, the do-it-all defensive back. He's going to start. They're going to start him somewhere. It's going to be corner, nickel, safety. He can play all the positions. They're going to find the right one. Hopefully, they're going to find the right one. And he should be starting week 1. They get the workout wonder tight end from Penn State at the draft, Mike Gilliski. Okay. Julian Thomas amounted to absolutely nothing, just like I said he would after he left Denver, after he didn't have Peyton Manning throwing him 12 touchdowns a year. He did nothing in Jacksonville. He did a little bit in Miami, and now he's a free agent who, if you listen to some people talk about him, he's still a quality tight end. He's still blah, blah, blah. Well, then why is he out there and available? With all the tight ends that have been drafted the last 2 years, if Julius Thomas is really that good, why is he still a free agent? Not one team wanted to pick up this great pass-catching tight end? No, because some players are made by other players, and some players make themselves. Julius Thomas was made by Peyton Manning. Julius Thomas got himself paid because of Peyton Manning. The coaching in Miami has not been really what it needs to be. Let's face it. Adam Gase has come in. You got this defensive juggernaut in Ndamukong Suh, and the defense just never took off. It never got to where everybody thought it was going to be, especially when Suh came over from Detroit and joined Cameron Wake, and you had a Kiki Alonso, and you had Grimes, and you had some of these other pieces going on down there. It never materialized. Now, some guys make head coaches, some guys make coordinators. Maybe Adam Gase is one of these guys who's just a better coordinator than he's ever going to be a head coach. Maybe he needs more guys that are going to buy into his system. We'll see this year because they've overhauled their roster and they've got rid of a lot of their big personalities. They got rid of Suh. They got rid of Landry, right? Associate head coach, special teams coordinator, Darren Rizzi. Defensive coordinator, Matt Burke. Offensive coordinator, Dowell Logans. Names most of us really aren't familiar with. Adam Gase is definitely going to, be all over that offense. I like Ronaldo Hill being the assistant defensive backs coach. I've told you before I like Sean Jefferson. He's been great as a receivers coach in the NFL. He's an assistant head coach on the offensive side of the ball. I love it when former players come back. Cruz Cooper, former offensive lineman. He's an assistant offensive line coach. There's something about players who are able to come back and coach the way they're able to relate. They get Jeremiah Washburn down there on the offensive line. They get Eric Studesville to be the run game coordinator. He comes over from Denver. So they have this coaching staff now with guys that seem like they're going to buy in. They have Chris Kokrick for the defensive line. He comes over from Detroit. So they have this coaching staff now that it looks like is going to fall in line, buy into Adam Gase's system. So maybe they have a better year this year, right? 6-10 last year. Let's be optimistic. Well, I looked at their schedule. It's prediction time. That's what we're doing right here. I got them going 5-11. I don't have a lot of faith in this team. I don't have a lot of faith in their defense. They have some offensive pieces. We'll see what Ryan Tannehill can do coming back from injury. But you don't have a lot of weapons at receiver. You don't have a lot of weapons in the backfield. Frank Gore is probably your best running back, and he's near 40 years old. Was he 36, 37, something like that? So key games, week 15 and 16, they got Minnesota and Jacksonville back to back. Be nice to get one of those. And then you need to go out and you need to beat the Jets. You need to beat the Bills. You need to beat the Colts. Those are going to be key games for Miami this season, is beating the beatable teams. You can't go and face Indianapolis with Andrew Luck coming back from maybe being half of what he used to be, 80% of what he used to be. They don't have a lot of talent up there in Indianapolis right now. They're definitely building a young core. They're getting some better pieces. But it's not there. That's a beatable team if you're Miami. The Bills, who knows what's going on there? Is LaShawn McCoy going to make it through the season? Is the defense going to be the same tough-nosed defense that it's been? And the Jets, that's the team that you're even with right now. So that's 2 games. That's 2 wins possibly right there. 50-50 shot. Last team we'll talk about in the division, obviously, is the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Bills to me are kind of like the Detroit Lions of the AFC. Every year you can look at their roster and you go, man, look at this guy, look at that guy. I could see it, maybe this is going to be their year. Maybe. And, last year they made the playoffs. The Lions, 2 years ago, they made the playoffs. McDermott is changing a culture up there. He's gotten rid of guys that don't fit the way he wants to do things. They've gotten rid of some guys that have gotten him some draft picks and some other players. They've cut guys they've brought in. Best thing they did this offseason was re-signing Kyle Williams. He is the leader on that team. He's the leader on the defensive side of the ball. He's the leader in the locker room. He is a quality guy, quality football player. He has been there forever. Watching that man break down when the Bills made the playoffs last year and how important that trip in his career and how loyal he's been to that team in that city. He needed to be re-signed. So I'm glad Kyle Williams is back. He's going to help anchor that defensive line. They bring in a Vontae Davis. They bring in a Phillip Gaines, a Chris Ivory, Star Lotulelei. Okay, so the defensive line's starting to look strong. They bring A.J. McCarron in to compete with Nate Peterson, Trent Murphy, a Marshall Newhouse, Jordan Matthews, who's no longer with the team. They lose Tyrod Taylor as well. In the draft, they go for the big, strong-arm kid who hadn't proved anything, except he had a strong arm. So that means playing in Buffalo, playing in all that snow, Josh Allen's going to develop into a great quarterback because he played in Laramie, Wyoming. Okay, well, you got a strong-arm kid who's not accurate. I mean, he can run. What do you want me to say about him? He didn't play top talent. He didn't dominate the level he was on. He's just got a big arm. He hasn't proven football IQ. He hasn't proven he's going to win big games. But he's got a big arm. He's part of the new trend of we have to have the quarterback. We can't miss out on one of these quarterbacks. I'm on record. If it's not a Peyton Manning type guy, I'm not taking a quarterback in the first round. One of my favorite quarterback picks this year's draft was Kyle Lauletta in the 5th. Now, he wasn't one of my top quarterbacks, but for the value you get with him in the 5th round, money. So they draft Josh Allen. Okay, great. Not my favorite pick of theirs. Tremaine Edmonds. I like that pick. He is a huge linebacker. I don't know too many linebackers. I mean, what? Willie McGinnis was 6'5". You don't get a lot of linebackers that are 6'5", 6'6", that can run the way Tremaine Edmonds does. Side to side. He's going to cover some field. And you put those big boys in front of him. You put Kyle Williams back in front of him. You put Star Lotulelei up in front of him. You put the guy drafted after him, Harrison Phillips, up in front of him out of Stanford. Ooh, I wish Harrison Phillips would have landed on the Lions. I like the way he plays the run. He is an anchor. You're not moving him off the line unless he decides to. And then their last pick of the draft, Austin Proehl, if he's anything like Ricky Proehl, he's going to put in the work and you're going to find him a roster spot. Because Ricky Proehl wasn't the most talented receiver, but he worked hard. He competed hard. He fought hard. And if his son, Austin, has any of that in him, he'll find a spot on this team. Now, we talked about their coaches a little bit. Sean McDermott, he comes over from Carolina. He gets them to the playoffs last year. He's the 20th head coach in the Bills franchise history. He's got Danny Crossman as his special teams coach. Brian DeBall as his offensive coordinator, which is a change. And Leslie Frazier as his defensive coordinator. And we all know he's had time as a head coach and he's run some very successful defenses. Other coaches to me that stand out for the Bills, I don't know. Terry Robisky, he's got 37 years. We all know with his time in various spots around the NFL. He's been a nice little coach in addition, I'm sure, with his experience and the things that he's seen around his time, 37 years in the league. Probably the most experienced coach on the Bills roster. I mean, they got a couple of guys 20 years, 25 years, but 37 years as a coach in the league for Robisky. Pretty impressive. Probably has Sean McDermott's ear. It's like, hey, coach, I've seen this before. I've been through this before. When I was here, we did this. When I was there, we did that. So I like what the Bills are building. But like I said, they're that team. They're like the Detroit Lions. They're kind of always just going to be right there, like so close. Even in like a 5-11 season, the Bills could be so close to being a 10-6 team. Similar to San Diego, really. I mean, when you think about it. So key games for the Bills this year, Jets and Miami. Get those games. You get those games, okay, you might not win the division because New England's there, but if you win those games, you're setting yourself up probably for another year right there in that wild card spot. And then you got to try and split with the NFC North. Get a couple of those. Doesn't matter which two. Try and get two of those. I got them going 6-10. Not as good as last year. They got a little bit tougher schedule. But I think 6-10 is about where they are. We don't know what we're going to get from Nate Peterman or McCarron or Josh Allen. We don't even know who really is going to be the starter. We could have a carousel going up there in Buffalo. So that will all depend on what's going on there. And other quarterbacks, you know, I got to talk about this. We're going to continue to talk about this story, Colin Kaepernick. He is being blackballed 100%. Part of it is because of his stance on social justice and his willingness to put himself on the line and money on the line to take a knee during a song that's racist in nature, that does not uphold what it stands for or what this country stands for. The justice system does not uphold what this country stands for or what it is supposed to stand for. There is racism involved. There is prejudice involved. People of color are being beaten and sentenced to prison at a far higher rate than their non-melatonin counterparts. And Colin Kaepernick, he's now bigger than the NFL. I don't think he ever plays in the NFL again. He's going to go down in history. He's going to eventually be in history books for all of the social activism that he helped start, create, and followed through with. He's in museums, and he is doing his thing. So today, here in Denver, John Elway was asked about, hey, you know, everybody's talking about bringing in this veteran backup. What about Colin Kaepernick? Now, this is where, you know, as great of a competitor, as great of a quarterback he was in the NFL, Elway's not a great talent evaluator. He's not. I mean, face it, his draft picks don't pan out most of the time. This year's draft, I love it. But Peyton Manning falls in your lap, Von Miller falls in your lap. That does not make you a great talent evaluator. He failed with Paxton Lynch. He failed with Monte Ball. He failed with Brock Osweiler. And over and over and over again with guys that just did not cut it. Now, I get that statistically he has one of the higher success rates in the NFL, like 30-something%. But he failed. And now, because he was deposed, because his political views and his views as a rich white Republican are different than that of what Colin Kaepernick did, his stance is, we gave and offered Colin a contract. He didn't accept it. So he's not coming back to this team. Well, okay. Let's examine that. And as D-Mac said on 104.3 The Fan today here in Denver, well, Brock Osweiler turned Denver down, left for more money, said, no, I don't want to play with you. I don't want to play for you. I don't like what's going on and how I was treated there. But as soon as they needed somebody, they brought his little stank butt back. Can't do nothing but throw interceptions. So what's the difference between Osweiler and Kaepernick? Well, Kaepernick took his team to the Super Bowl. Kaepernick's got one of the best touchdown to interception ratios in NFL history. But Kaepernick's also black and took a political stance that most white, rich Republicans can't understand. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to call John Elway a racist or a bigot, but he doesn't get the scope of this because it does not affect his life the way it does others. He has never had to deal with this the way others have. So while he sits up on his high chair and he makes judgments and he decides, look, you did me wrong, you deposed me. You did the country wrong, you took a knee during a song that we pay money to even play. Or get paid money to even play and be around. And then the good old boy jumped on it and said, oh no now. We got to go ahead and keep them little bigots and racists happy or we can't make all our monies. I can't stand it. That's why people are tuning out from the game, is because, not because politics, these people have political views. Because their political views are wrong. Some people say Jalen Ramsey's views are wrong. We heard about his interview this week with GQ. He gets suspended for a week. This interview probably took place months ago, but it's coming out at the same time he gets suspended. And he goes through and he dogs out a bunch of quarterbacks, kind of gives some praise to some guys, makes it seem like, hey, he doesn't really know what he's talking about when it comes to picking Marcus Mariota over Big Ben. Or Marcus Mariota is a better quarterback than Matt Ryan. But ESPN put out the stats. The opposing quarterbacks that he liked had 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, an 87.2 passer rating when Ramsey was in coverage on the guys they threw to. The quarterbacks that he kind of dogged out and trashed had 1 touchdown, 5 interceptions, and a 69 passer rating when Ramsey was in coverage. So Rodgers, he mentioned Rodgers, 78.5% against him. Derek Carr, 83.3. Deshaun Watson, who he gave praise to, 105.4 rating. Matthew Stafford, one of the highest ratings against him, behind Tyrod Taylor, 116.7. Tyrod Taylor had a 146.8 rating against Jalen Ramsey, who in my opinion is at least a top 3 corner in this league. Tyrod Taylor said he's better than he gets credit for. I agree, but he's also not as good as he thinks he is. Marcus Mariota, who he really had some praise for, great for the Tennessee team, 81 rating. Now, guys like Andrew Luck had 137.5 rating, but he said he's really not that good. Big Ben, 56 rating. Pittsburgh had some horrible games against Jacksonville last year. Jared Goff, in fact, he's picked Big Ben off 3 times. Jared Goff, 111.5, average, he says. Jimmy Garoppolo, 100.3, all schemes. I agree with him there. I guess you could say he's good. And he said Joe Flacco sucks. Joe Flacco has a 23.5 rating against Jalen Ramsey on the season. So does Jalen Ramsey have a point? Statistically, yes. In the history of the game, probably not. Some of the guys he dogged out are going to be much better than they are. In the history of the game, Colin Kaepernick is going to go down as a better story than not. He'll be remembered much longer than guys like Jerry Jones. Maybe not longer than a John Elway. We'll have to see what other things Kaepernick gets into. But he deserves to be playing. He's better than most of the backups in the NFL, and he's better than some of the starters in the NFL. And he's only not there. And Eric Reed is only not there because they have chosen that right is more important to them than just shoving it to the side to be wrong and get paid. They love the sport. Don't get that twisted. They love the sport. But right is right and wrong is wrong. And the fact of the matter is, as mad as you may get, as political as you want to make this, right is right and wrong is wrong, and they're both being blackballed. That's Real Talk. That's the show today. Until next time, be real.
Yo, reflect when true lyricism used to get respect. When an artist didn't have to sell their soul to get a check. Real music is dead, now it's time to resurrect. I reflect on the past and there's nothing I regret. We came a long way from spitting freestyles in the hallway. Got home from class bumping classic albums all day. Writing rhymes that could change the world and enlighten minds. Started with a nice design, now we got the light to shine. Remember when that Nas dropped? Bumped the album non-stop. Every day, all summer, copped it from the mom pops. Nowadays we're taking people back into the essence. When the lyrics had a meaning and the music had a message. When the MC wasn't hating all women and gun killing our brothers before they filled up the prisons from drug dealing. Rocked the stage and left the people feeling real positive. Y'all doing what's popular, we probably do the opposite. Y'all be in them skinny jeans, we be in the baggy sweats. Crowd always show us support. You like saggy breasts, a couple savvy veterans made it through the wilderness to the promised land, and we'll never forget the pilgrimage. Reflect when true lyricism used to get respect. When an artist didn't have to sell their soul to get a check. Real music is dead, now it's time to resurrect. I reflect on the past and there's nothing I regret. Reflect when true lyricism used to get respect. When an artist didn't have to sell their soul to get a check. Real music is dead, now it's time to resurrect. I reflect on the past and there's nothing I regret.
I used to fantasize about making a living off of great spitting. Pour my heart into this art until the paint's dripping. I lost faith in that vision, shaping the image isn't the picture how I imagine. In fact, it's way different. At high school, I used to bump the woo with grave diggers. I used to scribble in my pad until the page was ripping. I was a menace with a pen and spitting straight venom. And quick to battle any nigga who was safe different. And talent shows me and B was fucking stage flipping. We slayed women and all the haters would stay riffing. Ill Blaze was the game, we thought we was made niggas. Infatuated with bitches, fame and chain glitter. We used to record in stores, sipping on straight liquor. And puff the kind of pit that sent you on a space mission. Rapping then felt different, like it was fate driven. You could make a name for yourself off of flame spitting. But then the game shifted. It went from lyricism to lame niggas who dress the same as their little sisters. Nursery rhymes and trapping was the main affliction. I'm here to nurse the game back to the age of lyricism.
Reflect when true lyricism used to get respect. When an artist didn't have to sell their soul to get a check. Real music is dead, now it's time to resurrect. I reflect on the past and there's nothing I regret. Reflect when true lyricism used to get respect. When an artist didn't have to sell their soul to get a check. Real music is dead, now it's time to resurrect. I reflect on the past.